Please welcome Stephen Colbert.
Series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. But before we get started, how about a round of applause for series composer Baron Creary and Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, I am here today as a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien and all things art. And I don't think most of you would be here today if you didn't share that passion and a deep curiosity of how the artists we will meet today will, over the next 5 seasons, take us all into the cataclysmic events of the Second Age. My introduction to Tolkien was when I read The Lord of the Rings when I was around 12 years old. My friend Keith Sargent gave it to me. I was instantly absorbed by this world. I remember lying on the couch one day, and I was reading The Two Towers. I was in the chapter of the Uruk Hai. And at one point, I sat bolt upright, gasping for breath, because I realized that I had been holding my breath for the last 2 pages. Because reading Tolkien is swimming in deep water. I've now read the trilogy innumerable times. I lost count around 50. And 46 years later, I am still discovering new things about it and from it. And here, I just want to take a moment to give a very grateful hat tip to the Tolkien professor, Corey Olsen. I'm now on episode 178 of his Exploring the Lord of the Rings podcast, which is a page-by-page and sometimes word-by-word exploration of the story. I'm about 300 hours into this lecture series, and we haven't quite made it through the Council of Elrond. And honestly, I think he's going way too fast. Because of the depth of the text and the implied depth of Tolkien's text is one of the things that's so extraordinary about the professor. You feel like any question that you have, old tollers had that question first, and he wrote about it somewhere. But one of the places where the information is the thinnest is the Second Age. And that is when the Rings of Power is set, thousands of years before Frodo and Sam, when the world had not yet lost the light and music of the Elder Days. That's a story of hope and encroaching darkness, unlikely friendships, of home, and, as being Tolkien, it's a story of loss. I've seen a little bit of it, but I have declined their kind offer to watch the entire season because I want to discover, along with you and everybody else, what parts of that known story are going to be told, and how that implied world is explored. Who here has a copy of Lord of the Rings on their bookshelf? Who here has read the appendices? Okay, who here is lying about having read the appendices? Now, you probably know this, but for those who don't, the appendices are where most of the unique source material for the Rings of Power series comes from. And they were very important to Tolkien. He wanted to create a Gesamtkunstwerk, a complete work of art. Yeah, Gesamtkunstwerk, baby. A complete work of art painted on the grand backdrop of a mythic, undiscovered culture. And one of the things that got me so engrossed as I read The Lord of the Rings are the passing references, the little unexplained windows into the past. Who is Elendil the Tall, and just how tall was he? Who is Fëanor, and why did Gandalf want to perceive his unimaginable hand and mind at work? What does Gildor and Glorian mean by the House of Finrod? What the hell is a Flammifer of Westernness? So I'm looking forward to all the possibilities. I want to see Moria before the fall. In the next 5 seasons, get to see the doors of Durin being made by Narvi and Celebrimbor. And how did Sauron fool them with his Avatar disguise? Of course, it can be challenging to have something you love as much The Lord of the Rings and that entire world taken on by someone new. I've gotten to meet showrunners JD Payne and McKay. We had lunch, it was fancy. And I am struck by their sincerity and their love of this world. So I'm going to bring them out here in just a moment and ask them simply, what is the story you are telling? Who are these characters? And how does all of this fit into the lore of Tolkien? Don't worry, I'll also ask the hard-hitting, important questions like, why do some elves have haircuts? And where is the salon? And do female dwarves have beards? Today, we'll get some answers, meet the showrunners and the cast, and we'll see some surprises along the way. Y'all ready for this? Good. Let's get this long, expected party started. Professor Tolkien wrote to a friend about his plan to give the world a complete legend, noting, I will draw some of the great tales in fullness, and leave many only placed in scheme and sketched. The cycles should be linked to a majestic whole, and yet leave scope for other minds and hands wielding paint, and music, and drama. So let's bring out some of these other minds and hands. Please welcome showrunners JD Payne and Patrick McKay.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Welcome to Hall H. Have you been here before?
No, we never got in before. And we've certainly never been on stage. We are scared shitless right now.
We're frankly surprised they let us in now. We're waiting for them to come pull us out any second now.
All right, I would like to throw this out to each of you. I'm curious what Tolkien means to each of you. And is anyone being arrested?
That's for us. I was telling you. We only got a few minutes. Let's do it fast.
What's Tolkien mean to each of you? When did you first encounter him, and why do you love art?
Great. Just have to acknowledge the awesome for a moment. We're like, whoa. This is a very emotional and overwhelming moment for us. Thank all of you for being here and giving this show a shot. Should we say something to invoke the?
Yeah. I would actually, to acknowledge the awesome and to invoke the proper spirit of art here. I'd like to say something very serious for a second. Elbereth Kiltoniel, si Levren Penamiriel, Omeral Agar Erath, Nakairit Palentiriel, Ogaladremin Enrath, Panuilos Nailirathon, Evayer Si Nevairon.
What was the question again?
The question is, when did you first encounter Tolkien?
Do you want to take that one, Lindsay?
I was a kid who loved to read, so I came to it for the books early and then just never stopped reading them. They've sort of always been there for me.
I read The Hobbit in 5th grade, and then I went straight on through Lord of the Rings, and was waiting every moment for those movies to come out, and have done the deep dive, and we really, really, really love this material in this world.
And I came to the party through the Jackson films, and then did the deep dives on books, Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, the whole 9 yards, and fell in love to the point where Lord of the Rings became part of my personal canon, not just of literature, but just of life. It's something I go to in the most difficult moments of life. Tolkien makes its way into eulogies for loved ones who have died. Tolkien makes its way into birth announcements. My son, Ethan Everest Payne, on his birth announcement, it also said, Alien Power in Arath. Tolkien speaks the language of the soul, and it's there for us in those moments.
It's a really rare thing for an author or a director or anyone making collective art to truly create an optimistic work of art, and that's really something to be valued, and that's what this is. Because so often it becomes like Hallmarky or saccharine, and Lord of the Rings is not that. It's born of pain and struggle and evil, and still comes out at the end saying there's a reason for hope, and friendship and bravery are greater powers than evil. And that's something that I think we just hold really dear.
It's never run across times.
One of the things that speaks to me about Tolkien in the same way is that he knows the difference between happiness and joy. And joy can be born of pain. And joy is sublime in ways that happiness is fleeting. So I'm curious, this is a dream job for you three. The most simple and most important question, when we look at the Lord of the Rings, we look at the trilogy, we know that story. We know the story's being told, so the judgment is like, well, how are they going to visualize, bring to life the things that we know are going to be told? The second age is more a question mark. What story are you telling us?
Do you want to take that one?
Sure. Well, it's a human story. We want you to just sort of step back from the bigger world and just imagine your home, imagine your family, imagine your job, imagine your cosplay costume, the things that matter most to you. And then suddenly imagine all that's about to be taken away. It's all under threat. How far into the darkness would you go to protect the things you care about the most? That's at the core of what this story's about.
So for this first season, we want to reintroduce Middle-earth. We're thousands of years before the Third Age. The societies and kingdoms and peoples are very different. The world is in a different state. Gandalf says in The Shadow of the Past, as you and the Tolkien professor, hi Corey, know well, he says, after a defeat and a respite, the shadow grows again in a new form, roughly. And that's what the story's about this season. It's about reintroducing this world and the return of evil.
Was this always going to be a story of the Second Age when you first went in to sort of pitch your vision of how the story would be told? Or was it always going to be basically the same events?
Absolutely. The field was wide open. I mean, Amazon bought the rights to basically 10,000 years of Middle-earth history and then said, all right, guys, let's take all comers and see what you have to say. And we felt that the Second Age is freaking awesome. And it's Tolkien's amazing untold story that is so iconic with the forging of the Rings of Power. It's the rise of the Dark Lord Sauron, right? It's the rise and fall of Tolkien's Atlantis, the greatest kingdom of men ever created, Númenor. And then finally the last alliance of elves and men to come together and defeat Sauron. Well, almost defeat, and then the ring survives so he can continue into another age. But that story struck us as one that could really live up to and match the grandeur of what we knew the canvas was going to be. It's going to be a 50-hour story from the beginning. So if we're going to tell 50 hours of story, we want to really make it worth it.
Just as fans and as viewers and lovers of Middle-earth and Tolkien, we didn't want to do like a side thing or a spin-off or the origin story of something else. Like we wanted to find a huge Tolkienian mega epic. Amazon were wonderfully crazy enough to say, yes, let's do that. And
the guys like No BS, they have let us make the show we want to make.
Well, you said that the Second Age is amazing. What is if you have one, do you have a favorite, I'll say canonical event? Things that, that is in the text of Tolkien from the Second Age that is your favorite moment?
So I love this moment that he talks about where Sauron has forged the One Ring in order. Then he puts it on his finger and he reads the ring poem, and his words and power are felt across the world, and the elves instantly perceive they've been had. What is?
How do you say "oh shit" in Elvish?
Oops.
Quenya or Sindarin?
It's so it would be Quenya.
We have it backstage. You should bring it.
JD, what's your moment?
For me, it's actually more of a sort of like phase, and it's the downfall of Númenor. Watching this kingdom in which there's this factionalization, these groups that are pulling apart the fiber of Númenorian society. It seems it's so timely, not for just for our culture, but for any culture around the world. We see all these divisions happening, and tragedy can be so deeply cathartic for us to experience and see what are the hopes people have, what are the mistakes they make, why did things go wrong. And so I think that story of the downfall of Númenor is deeply painful, but also maybe hopeful, because maybe there's something we can learn from it.
I think the word Tolkien might use is applicable. I think that was, yeah.
Now, Lindsey, because there is such a sort of a sparse description of the events in detail in the appendices of the Second Age, did that sort of open field running there make it, was it a benefit or was it a challenge in terms of creating the series?
The real challenge of creating the series is keeping up with the imagination of J.R.R. Tolkien and JD Payne and Patrick McKay. It is a boundless sea of creativity, and so for me and a team of very, very talented craftspeople and artisans, it's just keeping up with everything they aspired to do in the written word on the page from all three of these fine guys.
What she means is this show was very hard to produce. But she did a really good job, and so did some other folks.
I had a lot of help.
How long have you been working on it?
I joined the project in 2018. Yeah.
We're at 4.5 years here. This is a big moment, you
It's a
guys.
labor of love.
We're like super emotional right now, and you can tell. I don't know when to cry, shit, or to whine. That would, make for a memorable panel, for sure.
I promise, I told him like 15 times not to swear up here, for anyone who has kids in the audience, but...
If any one of you could be a race of Middle-earth that's going on the horn, what would you be?
Well, this is going to sound weird now that JD talked about the downfall, but I think I'd go Númenorian. They're tall and great looking. They live in this beautiful island kingdom. They live a long time, but not too long.
They're really tall.
They're really tall.
Landale is 8 feet tall.
Have you seen these guys? My dream is to be as tall as they are. And so if I could get to 8 feet, I'd be thrilled.
Lindsey, do you want to be a Númenorian so you can die because you're so sick of producing this show?
Not yet. Maybe season 3.
What do you think about it?
You haven't thought about it? It's been 4.5
I want to live forever. I want to be an elf.
Stephen, did you not hear I'll benefit audience celebrities back there with race I want to be?
We love elves, but we really love dwarves. Dwarves are so awesome too.
Yeah, cool.
Seriously, we feel like dwarves, often are just the butt of jokes, and we're going to take dwarves really seriously. They're a really cool culture with their own mythology, spirituality, history, and we think there's cool things to be able to be done with dwarves.
I would want to be a hobbit, thank you for asking.
Stephen, there's time.
Yeah.
Stephen, I would have asked, but I didn't want to cut you short.
You all just made JD Payne's life.
And just like that, the series was canceled.
It's okay, he accomplished all he was ever hoping to accomplish.
Okay.
Sorry.
How daunting is it? Because look at this. How many people are here today? 7,000, 6,500, 7,000 people, something like that?
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
How daunting is it to take on the material, knowing how sacred it is to the legions of Lord of the Rings fans out there? What is the thing that has been most nerve-wracking about tackling?
I mean, all of it, but, I think people do sort of ask us about this, and the honest to God truth is, there's no one who can put more pressure on us than ourselves, because this means so much to us. Getting this right means so much to us. We've been the fans who've been disappointed, maybe many times over, and we didn't want to disappoint you guys, and hopefully lots of other people. That's a hard thing to live with, and constantly feel like, oh my God, is it good enough? It's not good enough. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. And that's what we've lived for 4.5 years. It's sort of nice to take a moment and actually celebrate it there with you all. Thank you.
Well, there are characters played by actors who will be out here in just a moment who are not canonical to Tolkien. Okay, that must be one of the greatest challenges. How do you fill out that world with characters that are implied cultures that you're drawing from, but they're not necessarily described to the depth that you're going to represent them? What guidance did you take for those character creations?
Well, so we had the privilege of working with Tolkien scholars like Tom Shippey and amazing linguists, and also had lore masters that were part of our writers' room that would always be there to help us make sure we were really honoring both the letter and the spirit of legendarium. But Tolkien gave us all these amazing clues about cultures in the Second Age. Concerning hobbits, he talks about the ancestors of hobbits, where there's Stores, Valahides, and Harfoots. He gives us just a couple tantalizing paragraphs about Harfoots, but then you take those clues in there and you say, okay, cool, what kind of society, would, he talks about their wandering days. He said, okay, imagine these sort of migratory, wandering, hobbits, what would they be like? How are they similar to hobbits in the Third Age? How are they really different? So piecing those clues together and then also doing what Tolkien himself did, which would be go back to our world and look at the heroic sagas and myths and stories and draw inspiration from them to sort of help bring a verisimilitude to the characters he was creating. So we, one, always back to Tolkien, and two, when Tolkien was silent, we tried to invent as Tolkienian a way as possible.
Go back to the book, go back to the book, go back to the book.
Yeah.
All right. This is Hall H. We promised the people some surprises. What do you want us to see?
We have a thing. You guys want to see a thing? There was a trailer last week that maybe, I don't know if some of you might have seen. There's a new trailer today that we're going to show you all right now. It's in the San Diego Comic-Con trailer.
You guys will be the first people to see it, so this is a big, real privilege for us to see it with you. Thank you.
Let's do it. There's a lot more to come to, It's just a little bit of it. Just a couple minutes.
All right, that's a lot to take in.
Thank you, guys.
Did I just see a Balrog get jammed in glass?
Or Umair.
Or really grumpy dwarf.
Again, that's a lot to digest right there. I don't even know who the hell some of those people are. I assume you do. Okay, let's go back to Balrog for just a second. That's a surprise. Okay, obviously we know Durham's Bane. Are there things for your storytelling that have implied depth into the Second Age that actually have events in the Third Age that you move into the Second Age?
So back to our producer Lindsey.
Lindsey, you want to grab?
Well, that's what I was just gonna say.
He's midstream. Go on.
The Second Age is so enormously vast and huge that I don't think there's much room for anything from the Third Age. But maybe somewhere down the road, who knows what happened.
Balrogs are sneaky.
Okay, how did you go about, the images of Númenor are beautiful and powerful, and my first question, is that a tactical set? Is how much of that is CGI and how much of what we see in Númenor is the set that people walked into it?
The answer is we built as much as any group of humans could. So a huge amount of it was in camera. It was the labor of love of thousands and thousands of people, crew members. We worked with incredible artists. We had amazing costume designer named Kate Hawley, our brilliant production designer Ramsey Avery, who's here in the audience somewhere, the Saints the legendary John Howe. So we had this incredible group of this brain trust to help us bring this place to life, and we built it from the ground up, the water and all that stuff. Some of it is coastlines and locations that New Zealand graciously provided us, but it was a lot, and then of course our visual effects team helped fill in the rest.
We built an entire city, several docks, and an entire wharf. It's crazy and enormous, and something that would be in D.W. Griffith. It was awesome.
And the first time you
but not racist part.
The first time you stepped on Númenor, you're like, I'm in Númenor. It's absolutely amazing.
It's a huge cast of characters. How did you go about finding the right people's roles? What were the auditions like, and why did you never call them?
Season 2?
There's still time. There's 42 hours of shows to let the shoot TV.
Honestly, how many people did you look at? How long did the audition process go?
Thousands of people all over the world. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, Tolkien described various ages. I mean, there was the age of the casting process.
Yes.
It went on for a long, long time. We saw hundreds of people for each role, so thousands total.
Thousands, yeah.
But but it was amazing. We really had two criteria for every single person we brought into this show. One is they had to be an excellent performer. So you're going to be with these people for a 50-hour journey. We knew that from the beginning, that this was going to be a 50-hour story. So we said, we want people to be able to fall in love with these people and have amazing actors. Then two, we had to be able to look in their eyes and say, do they have Middle Earth in them? And if they didn't have it, if they were excellent, then they didn't get the part. But if they had that special thing where it's inside them, then that's what we got. So
and they all do it, and we're really excited for you to meet them. We're really, really proud of this cast and the work they've done, and we think you're going to fall in love with them.
We're going to bring out a few other people in just one moment. Rapid fire. Ready?
Yes.
Why do some elves have short hair? Patrick.
Elves, like any race of many, many beings, don't all look the same all the time, especially not over thousands of years, and in the books it sure felt like that's what Tolkien was saying too, so that's what we did.
Why is there a Hobbit story in the Second Age, JD?
Because well, it's actually not technically a Hobbit story, it's a Harfoot story. And so Tolkien doesn't say anything about Harfoot's not having done anything amazing in the Second Age. He says that the Hobbits before the Third Age didn't do anything immersive. So we felt we had license there to another good Harfoot story.
Lindsey,
Just quickly, I just want to say that, it was really important to us from minute one that what makes Tolkien's tone unique and special is the blend of all of these cultures and what each of them bring to Middle-earth and what each of them represent. The underdogs and the smallest people being able to do great deeds. We could not imagine a version of this show that didn't have a version of that in some form, and went deep into the text to find it, and we think there's a beautiful, wonderful story there that you guys are really going to love.
Lindsey, can you confirm or deny that the female dwarves depicted in this series have beards?
I can confirm that they have facial hair, yes. I was there at 3 o'clock in the morning as each hair was lovingly applied one by one to make them pretty cool and glorious. Can't wait for you to see more of it and see very well on the show.
And we're going to meet Sophia in a few minutes, but she shaved for today.
Okay, last one. This is a jump ball. Will there be Entwives?
Maybe you've seen one already.
All right, music's always been a big part of Tolkien, intricate to the creation of Arda and Ea, the world that is in the Ainulindale. We got a little taste of the series music earlier. Let's bring out the series composer, Bear McCreary. Bear?
Hey, what's up, Hall H? How you guys doing?
Bear, we got a moment to talk backstage, and I'm just curious if you could share with the people what some of your inspirations were for bringing the emotion of the Second Age to life to this music.
Look, my starting point, understandably, is the legacy of Howard Shore. And let's give it up for Howard Shore. I am honored to score a series that features a magnificent main title. You're just gonna weep when you hear it, by Howard. But for me, one of the things that's interesting is I was looking at all the elements that Howard would put in. For example, the dwarves, deep male vocals. But there's a sadness. These are a people in diaspora in the Third Age. And their music reflects that. Well, what if we go back before the apocalypse? Let's use those sounds, but they're vibrant. They're industrial. They're alive. They're at the peak of their civilization. So in a way, I wanted to create a score that honors what Shore created by creating this continuity. We're going to hear the Society of Elves. We're going to hear the dwarves. And even the Harfoots have a variation of what we feel in the Shire, but it's not that. And the most exciting one was Númenor, because Númenor needed to be different. Something new. You're going to hear instruments that you've never heard in live-action Lord of the Rings adaptations before. My hope is that you embrace them, you recognize that they belong, and then when you go back and watch those classic movies, you'll realize they're gone.
Your inspiration from Howard leads me to a last question, which is, many of the people here came to Lord of the Rings, including yourself, through the work of Peter Jackson and Philippa and Fran and Richard Taylor and the workshop people at Weta. How has that inspired you, and how is that a challenge to match into that world that people perceive already? Because their towering achievement is sort of the bedrock of the desire for more visualized Tolkien. Lindsey.
Well, I think
just as a producer and filmmaker, those movies represent just such an astonishing achievement, and that team set such a high bar, and certainly we, befitting of Tolkien, and we really hope to carry on that tradition. Yeah.
No, I mean, I weep when I watch those movies unabashedly. I quote them regularly. They're part of like the daily fiber of my life, the way that I communicate with my wife and my partner, my children, and so they're woven deeply, deeply inside. So like, but what we wanted to do is to capture the fact that those movies are part of a continuum of artistic works that have been created over the last many decades, a couple of generations now. They also include the Ralph Bakshi films, and also include art by John Howe and music by Led Zeppelin, and also art by Alan Lee and Ted Nesbitt, all these various other artists who have created artwork. So we really wanted to create something that would draw from the best of everything that's been created and be able to belong in Middle Earth.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, sharing your art with us today, telling your stories and your dreams and your hopes, and being here with all the fans. Everybody, please give it up for Bear McCreary, Patrick McKay, JD Payne, and Lindsey Weber.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, while they're switching things up for just one moment, I'd like to address something in the room. How do we say this last name? J.R.R. Tolkien. Okay. I get a lot of hell online for saying Tolkien. But I grew up reading Robert Heinlein. That's why I say Tolkien, because there was no internet back then to correct me. And I know you're supposed to say Heinlein. All right.
I'm not sure.
How do we say Elrond's father's name? What? Arendelle? Wrong! It's Arendelle, and I will tell you why. Arendelle was a mariner who tarried in Alvernian, who built the ship of Timberfell. It has to be Ea, or it doesn't scan. Checkmate. Thus endeth the lesson, children. You ready to go over here? Ready to rock? No? All right. What is Arendel's ship called? Bakelot. I love you. All right. We're ready to go? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to go here? Yes. Who's ready to meet some cats? It's time to bring some elf and dwarf energy to Hall H. Please give a warm welcome to Robert Aramayo, Elrond, Benjamin Walker, High King Gilgalad, Charles Edward, Lord Calvin, Owain Arthur, who's joining the board, and Sophia Nomvete, yes, that screen should go, I think. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
How long have y'all been working on this project?
Personally speaking,
Yes.
2019.
Yeah, a couple
But
of
the audition process started, March 2019.
Okay,
Yeah. So a long time.
I came a little later.
you did? All right.
I'm always late on this job. I miss everything.
Well, Charles, let's start with you. I think we should start with you, since as Lord Celebrimbor, none of the trouble gets stirred up without your rings of power. You're the proximation sin here for this entire story. Does knowing how the actions of your character affect Middle Earth for thousands of years change how you might play?
No, not really, but we discover him at a time of personal and creative flux, and so, that uncertainty in his soul might take him in any direction, so we'll have to see what happens.
Drop that over to you.
But in terms of where we discover him, he's building working very hard on building a region, which he wants to recreate. He's trying to recreate Valinor in Middle-earth. And Tolkien says of the elves of Eregion at that time that they did not have peace in their hearts. And Celebrimbor is the prime example of that. He's restless, he's searching for something that is intangible. And this uncertainty, what he sees as his creative invalidity, makes him very vulnerable to predators.
Well, that's an interesting point, because people who sort of know Tolkien's work only casually don't realize the elves are troublemakers. They're actually not these. They're really pretty and tall and everything, but they mess a lot of things up in Middle-earth, and they don't get along with each other either. Well, let's talk about Elrond. Okay, you're stepping into some big elvish shoes.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
What was it like? Who is Elrond to you?
Well, an orphan, was where I wanted to begin, I really wanted to, he's closer to his choice at this point in his life than he'll ever be, So I wanted to pour all of my efforts into, discovering who he was, where he came from, his parents, and the weight of that. When your dad says, well, it's a lot to live up to, which felt quite good actually, because I feel like I've got a lot to live up to as well. So yeah, I would say that is where I started. The fact that he's an orphan.
And of course, his brother was Elros.
Yeah.
And so you're the uncle essentially of all the kings of Númenor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a little patronizing to them?
Well, I may not have met them yet, but it was another one of those things with Elros. It's another amazing feat of his family. When I started researching the characters, I wanted to just begin as a historian and sort of go into things that I thought were directly related to Elrond, And then the more I read, the more I realised that most of it is, you can in some way connected to Elrond or influence Elrond, or is a part of his past in some way, and that's just another one of them. So it's a lot of pressure for him.
He's an odd character who gets to look up in the night sky and every sunset sees his dad.
Yeah, your dad's watching you all the time.
Yeah. A lot of dads feel distant and removed. That's extreme.
Yeah.
Owain.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
You're in the fourth. Nice to see you there. How does being Welsh bring something new to the dwarven race?
Wow. Well, I'm honoured to be a Welshman, and I fly the flag everywhere I go. But actually, in all seriousness, there are similarities. I feel from my background where I grew up in a tiny village called Rhiwlas up in North Wales. Anyone from Rhiwlas here? It's up on the side of a mountain. I went to school. My family worked in a slate quarry in North Wales. Wales has history to mining. We have our own language. Dwi'n siarad Cymraeg. Oes 'na rhywun yn siarad Cymraeg yma? Okay. So there are similarities and connections to my growing up and my country, the smallness of our nation and the smallness or largeness of Moria, as I do.
How long did it take you to become Durham Fourth
Actually, 3 hours every day. And 45 minutes to take it all off. But you know what? I was so excited to know that I was playing a dwarf and that I got to put the gear on my face. Cut to the last day of shooting, the relief of taking it all off. But no, it's special. It's the first time I've worn prosthetics, and it's a challenge. It's another art form to play with, to act with. I loved it.
Well, we have a clip here that shows a bit of Durin and Elrond's unlikely friendship.
Yep.
And let's take a look. Let's get back to the elves. Ben.
Yes, sir.
High King Gil-galad, right? Not Gil-galad, Gil-galad.
Gil-galad.
Gil-galad. Again, scans.
Well, but also the sound is a schwa, and it's a lazy, casual sound, and Elvish is the language of light. There are no casual sounds in Elvish. Pure sounds.
That's what he said. Just as elitist as Gil-galad.
Yes, exactly. But it's about beauty and light, and you know.
Can you do the poem? Can you all do the poem?
Yeah. Gil-galad was an elven king. Anybody?
The harvest sadly sang. Last.
The last whose realm was fair and free, between the mountains and the sea. His sword was long, his lance was keen. His shining helm afar was seen. The countless stars in heaven's field were mirrored in his silver shield. But long ago he rode away, and where he dwelleth none can say. For into darkness fell his star, say it with me, in Mordor, where the shadows are.
Any hesitation about taking this role?
Yes. It's a huge commitment for yourself, your family, and the time and the amount of work and research that it demands. So yes, but I got a phone call from JD, and he was talking to me about the character and the trajectory and the vision for the show. And in the background of the phone call, I could hear, and I said, JD, where are you? And he said, I'm in the hospital. I said, are you okay? He said, no, my wife had a baby. And I was like, well, hang up, stop talking to me, I'll do it. Like, that level of commitment it really reassured me. Yeah.
Sophia, you have the honor of playing the first ever female dwarf depicted.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for such a lovely response.
Tell me a little bit.
Thank you.
Tell me a little about Disa, which is a name from the legendarium.
It is Disa, the first female dwarf that we have ever seen on any screen. The first female dwarf that we have ever seen in the works of Tolkien. And I have the honour to host that revolutionary moment. She is so relatable in so many ways. You know, she's a mother, she is a wife to Durin. She's a force of nature and a joy, and
well, you yourself are, I know, because tell the people about your audition. this is as tough as it were.
Okay. I auditioned for this role when I was 2 days away from giving birth. So my daughter was engaged, midwives on speed dial, and J.A. Bayona having to hoist me out of a chair for my camera test at the time. And then I got the call to say that you will be flying the torch for this incredible character when my daughter was 5 days old. And then I stepped onto a plane with my family when she was 8 weeks old. And if you see in this image over here, can you see the stitching on the shoulders of the costume? That unravels so I could feed my child between takes. That is the power of a female dwarf. She is a necessity. We get to see the dwarven culture for the first time, you know. Khazad-dûm is alive and in its prime. And for any great success story of any world or race, there are females, and here I am.
Thank you so much, Robert and Benjamin Walker, Charles Edwards, Owain Arthur, and Sophia What do I have for you now? We have more people coming out here this morning. Who's coming out? Who's going to sit up and tell you and no one else? Are there any questions for me? Thank you. You look great. It's the best question I've ever gotten. She said, my wardrobe mistress said to me, I said, I want something that's a little Professor T. I just want out with a slightly Oxford on for tonight. Who's my favorite from the Silmarillion? Well, I think it's probably Alphara's Gold. I would say he's a good, you don't have to like the good. He's understandable. I don't want to die either. Why are you wearing a costume? Why aren't I wearing a costume? Is this Comic-Con wearing a costume? Because what I normally wear is just a jockstrap. Ismael Cruz Córdova, around here. Nazanin Sara Zwangobani, Markella Kavenagh, and Weyman as the stranger. One general jump ball to everyone here. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Does anyone here have a relationship to Tolkien before any of us began?
Relationship, I mean, I came into the world through the films, so, and I was extremely obsessed with it. So, yeah.
Anyone loved the books before any of us began? Yes.
Yes, I was a massive fan of the books. I discovered them when I was a little girl. I was getting in trouble from my mum all the time for reading too much and not going out to play, and I used to hide under the sheets. And I read back to back The Hobbit and then The Lord of the Rings when I was about 8. Didn't understand all of it then, but it started a lifelong love of fantasy and sci-fi for me. So I'm a massive. This is my mecca. You guys are my people. So I'm very excited to be here. And yes, I loved you very much from a very young age.
Dylan and Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about the Harfoots and how they differentiate from what we think classically as hobbits?
I'm going to defer to my wife.
Thank you, darling. So, first of all, Harfoots rock. And they are ancestors to the hobbits. They are a migratory tribe who have been through a lot. They hide from the world to protect themselves. They're nomads. They still, though, have all the joy and the humour and the love of life that you see later, the love of song and family, and it was just such an honour to play them. And Marigold, my character, just wants to preserve that way of life, that amazing spirit that the Harfoots have.
So they still have the flower names, which is very nice.
They do.
That's a continuation. Do they live in holes?
They don't exactly live in holes, but they do live in carts. So we were really fortunate. We had the most amazing crew, and I remember the first day so vividly when we went to the set that we were filming on, which was literally in the natural environment, shooting on location. And I remember walking onto the set and going, I cannot tell where the set begins and where the actual environment begins. And the environment was just such it was like a character in our world, and I feel, I can't wait for you to see what the homes are, and we kind of carry them with us.
Now, Megan, I understand you continue the proud tradition of songs being sung in Tolkien. Did you know when you signed on that you'd be singing?
No, I didn't.
They sprang down on you?
Yeah, so we love karaoke. We did a lot of it in New Zealand.
And there was one.
Hobbits or?
Oh no, all. It's very inclusively.
Not me. I wasn't old enough to get in.
Who's there in spirit? So yeah, there was this one karaoke night that we were with J.A. And the showrunners there as well. And J.A. puts on Suddenly Seymour. And just like hands me the second mic without saying anything. So we just sing together, and I think there's like a video somewhere of the showrunners just like. And then yeah, next day I get a call from Patrick, and he's just like, "You want to sing in the show?" And I was like, "Yeah." So now I'm singing in the show, and JD wrote some incredible lyrics, and I got to work with Ben McCreary, who, as you just heard, is incredible. And so yeah, it was just great.
We have a clip here showing a little bit more of some of the mysterious happenings in the world. Let's roll that. Daniel, you play the stranger.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, as we were coming off the elevator, I was going on the elevator this morning, I just whispered in your ear as you walked by, "Morning, stranger."
Totally freaked me out.
Can you clear up any of this mystery, or would you care to deepen any of this mystery for us?
I would love to. So I think it's important to tell you that the great thing that JD and Patrick have done in creating these scripts for my character is to give us something where we have mystery and we won't know where this character is going to end up. You guys won't know where he's going to end up, what his intentions are. But I can tell you that he has a deep sense of purpose, he has a huge desire, and that after years and months of waiting, I am so excited that you're going to be able to come on this journey and follow him through, so I just can't wait.
Well, I'm not going to press you on my theories as to who this character is. Is it Gandalf, is it Sauron? I'm not entirely sure.
But how do you perceive the character without telling us who he is?
All you can do as an actor, I suppose, is go to what's in front of you. All I can do is play the moment, play the moment, play the moment. And I know enough, I have enough information to play each moment that I come forward. And you're going to have to come with me. And honestly, it's going to be wonderful to start seeing it come through.
That was a beautiful non-answer. Thank you. A terrible spot.
There's some people over here, some great people here who have much better answers than I do. Thank you very much.
Nazanin, you play a Southlander named Bronwyn. Can you tell us about the people you're part of and the realm that you're in?
Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir, and to be in the company of all of you. It's surreal. I play the mother of a very somewhat rebellious teenage son, played by this incredible actor, Tyroe, and in a forbidden romance with an elf played by this beautiful specimen over here, Ismael Cruz Córdova. And what I love about the writers on this show is that they have given every woman on the show, every female character, such agency. We don't serve the men around us. We have a storyline in our own right. And for Bronwyn, she is a healer, but she also taps into her inner lioness. And I, as an activist, as a long-time human rights activist for my homeland, Iran, tapped into what I believe is, thank you. I tapped into what I believe women are doing for my homeland in playing this character, in sort of liberating and redeeming the Southlanders who, back, in our ancestors' days, chose evil over good.
Let's go to your rebellious teenage son, Tyroe. I understand this is your first acting job, and I am not jealous at all. How did you find out you got the gig?
It was not quite my first acting job. It was my first acting job. Holy, this is crazy. Coming from the west coast of Australia, there's not much there in terms of the industry. So I was doing a few commercials here and there, and one day my agent sends me an email and says, "You've got an audition for an Untitled Amazon project." And I'm like, "That's cool." And then in quotation marks it says, The Lord of the Rings. And I was like, that's cool. And so, you know...
It's going to be Untitled if you put the title.
But, so I put down the tape, and, you know, I was just excited just to say that I auditioned for, you know, that huge of a franchise. And I got back that I'd been shortlisted. And I was like, no way, I've just been shortlisted for The Lord of the Rings. Like, that was a massive achievement on its own, and I was so happy with that. And, you know, fast forward a couple months, I'm on the set in New Zealand in front of massive cranes with cameras on them and tents and thousands of, like, people who are just, like, around doing I don't even know what, but something really important. But, yeah, I'm really grateful I've got this opportunity to...
You play a sylvan elf, okay? Nandor or Avari?
Don't do this to me.
Let me ask you this. That armor that you're wearing is really beautiful. Is that representing an ent on your armor? Because it looks like sort of the classic Northern European legend of the Green Man.
There are many things that I did ask this question to the costume designer, and they were also quite vague about it. But they were saying it represented, you know, being that gave life to the elves. Another one of them said that it was an ent. So, and another one of them said it represented more like the woodland elves and like nature. So I asked JD and Patrick.
Are you dancing?
Well, I do move. I'm from Puerto Rico, so.
Your fight scenes are so fluid and beautiful, and I often associate that with people who were dancers before they became actors.
Yeah, I have a background in movement. I have a background in, as I said, Puerto Rican, but I also have a background. But I've done several martial arts, and for the role, I wanted to create a movement mythology that was original to the character, so I brought in wushu, taekwondo, kung fu, and Brazilian, Afro-Brazilian martial art, capoeira. So it was very important for me. It was very important for me that this character, you know, would have the opportunity to create something new and to fully embody and to honor the depth of the variety and diversity within the elven world. So yeah, we went there and we created something very beautiful.
I'm gonna say you're an Andor. That sounds like an Andor. Okay, we have a glimpse of arcs in the earlier trailer. Here we have a clip that shows a bit more with you. Let's roll.
Thank you all so much for being out here and sharing your stories with us.
Give it up for Ismael Cruz Córdova, Nazanin Boniadi, Tyroe Muhafidin, Megan Richards, Dylan Smith, Sara Zwangobani, Markella Kavenagh, and Daniel Weyman, everybody.
One of the things that I love about any realization of Tolkien is not even necessarily the story itself, though I love the stories. I love seeing the care that goes into all the creation. All these are inspired by the John Howe drawings that we know from Númenor, the Silence destruction. I would want to live there. That seems like a really nice part of Europe. All right. Now we're going to bring out our last group of actors to the stage. Is everybody welcome? Everybody ready? Okay, good. Please welcome Morfydd Clark. here we go. All right. Would anyone care to share their first encounter with Tolkien before they ever did this show? Anybody have a memory when they first came in touch with the legendarian?
I played Battle for Middle-earth on PC. Anyone know that game? That was a good game. My mum got very angry. I played it too much. But that kind of led me into the films and then eventually books.
I read The Hobbit as a kid when I was about 11, and when my son, who's also called Maxim, my real son is out there somewhere, I read The Hobbit to him at age 10, and he's got a very good memory. And I started with the voices, confident actor, I thought I was going to do the voices, and then I got myself in all sorts of trouble because I forgot what they sounded like, and he was immediately like, "He didn't sound like that, Dad." So that was me.
Morfydd, I have to start with you, because I love your name. Morfydd. I love Welsh names, because they're such a, for those of us who don't speak Welsh, such a random collection of consonants. Double D is fifth, right?
Whoops, on my microphone. It's voice, so Morfydd.
Morfydd.
Very good.
Oh, come on.
Practice language?
I did. That's thank you very much. Can you, before we get started, can you do your trick? I saw you do this in a video. Your trick, which is to do the Welsh alphabet.
Of course. So, Abacach, Gatn, Ija, Lshamun, Opa, Rahasta, Thiu. Thank you, Miss Watts, for teaching me that.
Galadriel is an incredibly iconic character, extraordinarily powerful. What's it like to step into her armor, shall we say?
It's just beyond my wildest dreams. You know, I grew up reading the books. I was 11 when the films came out.
Me too.
And as JD was saying, like these films, these books have been part of my family's kind of jokes and life. It's just been a pleasure, and we've had conversations about her, and now that's my job. So amazing.
I understand we see you in fight sequences, we see you on horseback, in a giant water tank for a lot of this. Can you tell me about some of the training you did for this part?
Yes, I did a lot of training, most of it with Charlie.
Yeah, it was like being on a really amazing school camp.
What was the hardest part?
Probably, we did a bit of free dive training, so we had to learn to hold our breath. Yeah, to hold our breath underwater for. I think I started at like maybe 5 seconds, and by the end could get a couple of minutes out.
The thing with freediving is, they said, it doesn't get easier, you just get more used to ignoring the pain.
Just relax.
Wow.
Yeah.
Much like an acting career. Let's talk. Let's look at a clip with Galadriel and Elma.
Okay, back to you, Morfydd, before we move on. That's some deep cut Elvish. How hard was that to pick up? Or is it easy compared to Welsh?
One of the things that I learned as soon as I picked up The Hobbit, my mum was like, "You're reading that? Elvish is based on Welsh." So I've always been so grateful for Tolkien for kind of respecting the language of my country and loving it. So I felt very lucky to be Welsh to learn it.
Did anyone else pick up any unexpected skills by doing this, Charlie?
I mean, the free diving was probably the most grueling thing, but the most fun thing was we did a lot of horse riding. So I went from kind of being terrified of horses to being a bit less terrified of horses. There were moments when we were doing that training with our trainer Adrian where it was like an out-of-body experience where you're just there and you're thinking, I can't believe we're involved in something like this where we get to ride. Was
there one horse that you established a relationship with?
My horse's name was Cricket, which in Australia is quite a popular game you play with a bat and ball. But Morfydd's horse was called Titan, and that it was the most beautiful horse. I don't want to hurt my horse's feelings too much, but Morfydd's horse was unbelievably stunning. Blue eyes.
Well, your character spent a lot of time in Númenor. Anyone want to take another look at Númenor? Yeah.
besides the beauty of that, what strikes me about it is that even Minas Tirith, as we see in the Third Age, all of that story of Men in the Third is really a post-apocalyptic story. This is the civilization that they've lost.
And I want to ask Cynthia, you play Queen Regent Muriel. What is that? First of all, she's a canonical character, very important, but not described that much. Who is that character to you, and what was it like to live in that world?
Well, it's interesting because when I initially sort of tried to do the deep dive, as you said, it was sort of hard to find much. So I kind of really had to, I would say, look within. And it just so happens that, the state of the world being what it is, there was a lot in my mind, a lot in my heart, and Muriel for me was sort of the place to put all of my thoughts, all of the things I was navigating, both personally and just in terms of, everything going on in the world. And Muriel for me is someone who, talk about heavy as the head that wears the crown. There's really that sense of wanting to do right by her people and guide them, and having that sense of the murmurings, the rumblings in the land. But when I think about Númenor and just the incredible, even watching that, it's like I was there on the set, I've seen that clip, but watch it again, I hear the music swell, and it's just like, it's so evocative, and even to film on that set was just, there's incense in the air, there's water lapping on the docks. It's just an incredible achievement to have gotten to portray Númenor for the first time on screen.
Well, I've been informed by a kind young man who whispered in my ear during that clip that we're running very long, and other people have to use all age, and we know we want to save time for your questions here. So I want to thank everybody who's out here right now and bring the rest of the cast on. So we're going to take questions from the audience. Please give it up for Morfydd Clark, Vickers, Cynthia Addai-Robinson, Trystan Gravelle, Lloyd Owen, Ema Horvath, Maxim Baldry, and Wadham. Let's give it for the example. Go ahead and stand. There's going to be some mics in one of the aisles. Right over there. There's a mic right over there. While the rest of the cast comes on. Try to keep your questions fairly short so we can get to as many as possible. We want as many people to ask questions as we possibly can. And let's keep this in the spirit of J.R.R. shall we? Right, that's all there's me. God, you're all so beautiful.
Let's go to Patrick and JD for that. What's the biggest changes between the movies that they know and this show as it will play out over the next 5 seasons?
Well, the show takes place more than 4,000 years before the films do. So a lot. You could ask what the changes you would see from something that was set in modern day versus ancient Greece or an ancient society. So it's a whole different Middle Earth.
In the Third Age, Middle Earth is sort of post-apocalyptic. All of these kingdoms have fallen. The elves are on their way out the door. In the Second Age, Middle Earth